Welcome to this week's Endurance for Everyone podcast.
The following program is for entertainment purposes only. Though the hosts of this show are certified Ironman coaches, their attempts at long-course triathlons and endurance events should not be taken as an endorsement for you to do something stupid too. You should make your own bad decisions, then podcast about it. Now, let's start the show. Ready to start your journey? Whether it's your first workout or you are a seasoned athlete, Endurance for Everyone Coaching wants to work with you. Our coaching team has worked with athletes from beginners to USAT national qualifiers and are comprised of experienced runners, cyclists, and triathletes who have a passion for healthy living and have been where you are. We offer comprehensive coaching programs from weekly support to basic consultation, all designed to help you achieve your goals. If you want to take your performance to the next level, look no further than Endurance for Everyone Coaching. Go to www.teamE4E.com and click on the coaching link or send an email to teamE4E@enduranceforeveryone.com. And let's get started.
And welcome to episode 176 of the Endurance for Everyone podcast. I am John Harris, your host, and welcome to April. It has been very, very hot down here in Florida. I know you guys up north are still getting some snow, but down here it was 87, 88 degrees today. So we're well into the summer months already in April. I can't even imagine it still being snowing at this time of year, but being that what it may, doing a lot of riding inside lately. I know if you're following along on the groups, you're seeing a lot of Zwift riding on my part. And going through a little bit of a issue right now because I live on the third floor. There's no one above me, but I've been Zwift riding since January. And even before then, I've been in this apartment for 3 years and never had any issues. And now all of a sudden, I get these little notes on my door from the apartment management saying that there's a lot of noise coming out of my apartment. Now, I'm a quiet guy, so it can only mean one of two things: the washer and dryer or the bike. And so I'm starting to look at this. I'm trying to figure out how to quiet it down. I have a carpeted floor, so that should help. I have it on a mat, which should help, and I have it on a yoga mat now. I just added a yoga mat to it to see if it'll help it a little bit. I didn't get anything today, but normally it waits. It's kind of weird. I got the note 2 days and I hadn't been riding for 2 days. So I'm starting to wondering if it's the washer and dryer, and there's really nothing I can do about that. But kind of put it out there, try to figure out how to dampen the noise a little bit because I don't want to be a disturbance, of course. But and it could be that the people below me now are just a big pain in the ass, and then you get those when you come into apartment living, I guess. But anyway, so putting a lot of miles in on the bike on Zwift. Didn't really feel it today. When I was out there, it felt a little like I was struggling today, but I was also concerned about how much noise was being made, so that might have been part of it. So if you also are on the groups, you know that we are partnered up with Fat Man Chronicles, the podcast over there with Pete and Gretchen, about with a weight loss challenge for until I think it's June. I'm not even sure when it lasts till, but it's going pretty well. We got into a lot of discussions on there about set point and things like that, and set point being what it is. I know I personally believe that that's true, that the body does have a set point. I know Pete does as well. But what you have to remember when it comes to set point, that it is a theory, that there's really no solid evidence that it's a fact that the body does do this. But I think for all of us, we know that the body gets used to being a certain weight after a while, and it's hard to get past that. And mine was right at 275, 280, and I've managed to kind of dip into the 260s there for a while. I'm eating well. I'm doing all the things right, I feel, with occasional slip-ups here and there, but I'm working out, and I know it's 80% what you eat, but I am eating right, but I'm working out 6 days a week now, probably 7 most of the time, and still struggling with getting the weight to keep going down. And it's going down, but to go down, I guess everybody wants it right away, so I am not immune to that as well. But I think it really comes down to what you see when you see yourself, and that's that whole body image thing. What do you see when you look in the mirror? Do you see someone who's dedicated to being healthy and to changing their lives, to helping others, to being the best they can possibly be? Or, when I look in the mirror, do I still see, fat, slow triathlete that I saw 10 years ago that was over 300 pounds? And the truth is, I still see the fat guy, and I don't know if you watch the show, American Dad had a episode about that once, that he was seeing himself gaining weight, and they were all saying, but you're not fat, and then they finally showed it from the perspective of the family, and he was like thin, and really like grossly thin. So it was like a good little take on how he saw himself versus how they saw him. And once he realized, what was going on, and, so I think a lot of us have that. I know, I'm no longer a fat person. I currently weigh right now 269. I'm stronger, I'm fitter, I'm healthier, than I was back then. But the body image is a nasty thing. We never see what others see. I finish a triathlon thinking, yeah, I've accomplished something that I never thought I could accomplish. And then the race pictures are posted, and I only see the negative as do I really look like that? And the hard answer is, yeah, I do look like that. But that's the point. What I see and how I perceive it is much different than what others see. And to be honest, no one is looking at me and really giving a damn about what I look like. But all I can hear in my head while looking at these pictures is Pennywise, grinning from ear to ear and saying, "Kiss me, fat boy," So you can use the Google machine to figure that out if you didn't see. Actually, I don't think it was in the new version of It, but it was in the old version of It. So, be that what it may. And I think it comes down to a lot of it is like it's just not acceptable for men still to be concerned about these things as a man. And yeah, I am a man. You totally get the imbalance of expectations we have versus, females. It's still socially acceptable for a man to be fat or big, and, more so than for women. And, they used to be called the Barbie syndrome, and it's, but I don't think, and I'm not belittling that issue because I know it's very real, but it's not just a female issue. It's, much has been made about the unrealistic measurements of a Barbie compared to a real woman. And if that representation is affecting the body image of young girls as they grow up, and, if expanded to real life, a Barbie doll would have a waist measuring 16 inches. Not really achievable by most people. And estimates are that if you chance to find a woman built like Barbie, are like 1 in 4.3 billion. And yes, it was on the Google machine, believe it or not. So, but is it really just a female issue? When I was a kid, we played with, yes, and I'm old, so we played with G.I. Joes, and G.I. Joes back then were 12-inch figures, and they were built like normal guys. They didn't have big biceps. They kind of were normally built action figures. But then the 80s came, and all of a sudden G.I. Joes had these bodybuilder bodies. The arms, like if you had expanded the arms out to a full-size man, would be 30 inches around. Nobody has 30-inch arms. Not even Arnold Schwarzenegger had 30-inch arms. So does it equally affect a boy's self-image? As, they say the Barbies affected girls' image. And, and even if they did, most men aren't going to admit to that. They're not going to admit things that like that. Most men won't. I think it's different lately, but, it's not really the case. Of course, there are going to be some men are like these type A he-men that are comfortable in their skin and walk around like, you're blessed to have them around. But most of us, whether you want to admit it or not, have the same insecurities as everybody else. As I'm stretched over my bike racing and feel my belly hitting the crossbar, I wonder how many people are seeing and wondering what the hell I'm doing out there, Andrew and I discussed this a long time ago with Anna Vocino on the old Ironman Year One show. And they both offered insight from another perspective relating to their jobs. And Andrew, coming from a different background than I do, also have a different take on what it means to be a man discussion. It was interesting. It was an interesting back and forth, and I hope it's still worth a listen if you can still find it. But I may repost it, at some point, but if I can find it. But, Anna is one of my all-time favorite people, and it's fun to re-listen to the show. We all know that fat shaming does not work, and it actually can have the opposite effect than it is intended, but yet we see it, we hear it, we allow it. Chip Wilson, CEO of Lululemon, instead of taking ownership of the faulty yoga pants, blamed the large thighs of the women buying them. And what's irritating to me is that he comes out and he says this stuff, and women still go buy the product. They still give him money. It's right up there with Chick-fil-A to me. We know that what Chick-fil-A does with their money and what their influence is, but people will still go to Chick-fil-A. And I guess I just, I don't know. I don't understand it, so I guess it's style over value, There was this other example of, I believe his name was Jeffrey Miller. He was like a psychology dean at the University of New Mexico. And he sent out a tweet back in, I think, 2013. And it basically said, "Dear obese PhD candidates, if you don't have the willpower to stop eating carbs, you won't have the willpower to do a dissertation." #truth. And luckily, the university censored Dr. Miller, who stated he was part of an experiment. And yeah, I used bunny quotes there, as this was the most they could do to a tenured faculty at the time. But it does show the attitude that a lot of people have. The bombastic durian writer, and I've talked about him before, and his name is Harley Johnston, in a podcast interview a few years ago, stated he was arguing with a person about weight while poking him in his fat gut. And, seriously, how is this how you treat people you were supposedly trying to help? You're out here trying to help people, and you're poking them in their gut while you're telling them they're overweight. That's not going to help anybody. Even if I don't agree with a person's stance, I always try to listen to them. But to be disrespected and bullied in that manner would only turn me off to his message, no matter how valid the message was. And it would result in bodily harm to one or both of us. Poke me in my belly, and you will pull back a nub. And that's just fair warning. To be fair, I heard Mr. Johnson on another interview podcast, I think it was the Paleo Runner, with Aaron Olson, and he was much more calm about it and made a more convincing argument. Maybe he's mellowing in a bit, but I doubt it. It was probably more because Aaron is so calm that he didn't really feel threatened. And he did attack Anna Vocino, though, which is always going to, a bully is a bully, basically. So what are your thoughts, listeners? Do you feel that body image is still a problem? Or do you have an issue with it yourself, or do you find a way to accept the person you are? So let us know. Along with that weight issue and the food issue, and this is something I've talked about in the blog, and I've talked about it, I'm sure, on the podcast before, but and I usually get in trouble for this stuff. So, I'm still going to talk about it because, I feel it's how I think about things, and I'm sorry if you don't agree with it, but, this is what it is. There was one time a while ago, Jennifer and I went to had a bike ride, and we went to get something to eat, and left my car. So we rode together, and we pulled up, a car pulls up in front of us, and two young women get out with a young boy, and he's maybe 3 years old. It's no big deal. So it's like, it's great. They're getting out in the park. They're being healthy. And both the parents were not, I don't know if they're parents, but both the women were smoking. And honestly, I just don't get that. When I started on this fitness journey back in 2010, I was wandering for quite a while until I connected with others and some healthcare professionals, some coaches, books, podcasts that helped me understand where I was going wrong and what I was trying to do, and gave me ways to correct my lifestyle. The more I learned, the more I was able to throw out what didn't work and try to develop a plan that suited what was best for me. And we've talked about that before, do what's best for you, do you. So at the beginning, I became, when you learn these things, and within a lot of things, when you find something new and it works, you get highly motivated, you become kind of a zealot in sharing what you learn to others so that they may not be making the same mistake as you do. And not everybody's open to hearing that. Nobody wants to be told that they're doing something wrong. A lot of people don't care. So I chalk it up now to a little other learning issue. I've learned to tone that down quite a bit. And yes, I will still rant on pages, and I will still rant online from time to time about people who complain about their weight, yet still insist on downing gels and goos during races and training because it works for them. But as a whole, my opinion have remained online, and with the occasional foray into the podcast, but here's the one thing I have not wavered on. And I still believe in it 100%. If you're an athlete, a professional in healthcare, or a perceived expert, you have an obligation to set a good example to others. And I include parenting as one of those experts, and I've never understood parents who model bad behavior or unhealthy habits to their children. I find it a very selfish act. As fate would have it, on my way home one Sunday, I was listening to NPR, and a story interview came on that was very close to the same subject. In the story, they were talking about drinking alcohol and how that is passed down from generation to generation. I knew a woman a while ago when I worked at Moffitt whose husband would have his 8-year-old fetch him a beer from the fridge. And I did use bunny quotes on that again. I hated it. First off, to tell you he gets to fetch something for you is very demeaning. I don't even get started on that right now, but just the act of drinking in front of children has always bothered me. And it's probably because I grew up with a father who drank, and I'm not saying like to have a glass of wine or have a beer is inherently bad and have in front of your kids. And so I'm going to get in what I mean a little bit more, but so I don't want you to automatically jump on that. I don't think it's inherently bad. I think it's bad when you say why you're drinking to them, so it's like they were, even on NPR, they were talking about the impression it leaves on the child when a parent comes home and says something along the lines of, God, that was a hard day, I need a drink, and pours themselves some beer or bourbon, grabs a beer, opens a bottle of wine. And the message that sends to the child is, this is how you deal with stress. I've had a bad day, I'm going to drink, and that's how I'm going to deal with it. Well, I've had a bad day, I'm going to sit here and need a bucket of ice cream, and I just think it sends the wrong kind of message. And you should be teaching your children, I don't want this to come across like this, but you should teach your children how to deal with stress without having to deal with drugs. And, and alcohol is a drug. So it is, this is just people who have a glass. This is just people who have a glass of beer. How many parents out there are actually getting drunk in front of their children? And, Sunday barbecues during the football game. The same woman I mentioned above told me a story about her husband getting so drunk at a Tampa Bay Bucks game, which would make anybody drink, to be honest, but a Tampa Bay Bucks game, that they had to call her parents to come get them to bring them home. Their other children were with them at the time. So, and these are the same parents that are going to wonder why their daughter started drinking at the age of 14. Because that's the behavior that was modeled. I consider things like this selfish because, as I see it, it puts your own needs over that of your child. Your need of alcohol or a cigarette or ice cream or whatever it is outweighs your impulse to provide a positive model for your child. So when I started working at Healthy Start in Tampa, It drove me crazy that the smoking area was always in front of the entrance to the place. And our staff would sit out there and smoke. So when people came to the office, now we weren't a place that they came to for services. We were more of a program office at the time. They would have to walk through this to get to our office. Luckily, they changed that. But then I figured, of course, a cancer center would not be like that. So when I left Healthy Start to go to work at the Moffitt Cancer Center, they had it too. The doctors and nurses would sit out in front of the cancer center smoking. This is a cancer center. So that practice was ended while I was there, but how did it take them 15 years to figure out that might be a bad idea? And I think the same thing goes for food. I've written many times on here about how I feel when I see an overweight child. I want to smack the crap out of the parents, and the child knows no better. The child will eat what you give them. If it's been a long day, I'm tired, so let's pick up some McDonald's on the way home. Yay, mom. Yay, dad. You're a hero, and it feels good because the child is behaving because they got that, that junk food. But so basically, the child's the parent. The child's the one calling the shots. When if you were my age range, I'm 55. If you're my age, and even younger, I'm sure, but if you're in our age group, when you were growing up, how many times did your mom make 3 different meals to appease everybody? Probably not that many times, right? Your mom made dinner and you ate what was put in front of you. There were no questions. And you also cleaned that damn plate, so, which has its own issues that, that I deal with also. But it's like, about a year ago, I got into this discussion online with a woman who was the CEO of a fitness company, and she's out there, so I'm still out there, so I won't put this out there. But in a personal post on her Facebook page, she was complaining about people calling her out for posting pictures of unhealthy food she was eating, which were like donuts, fried chicken, things like that. In her post, she was telling people to mind their own business, the normal reaction when somebody had called out on something they were doing, that maybe not have been right. So I responded to her post in a calm manner for me. I know it's shocking, but I basically said that the issue is that she puts herself out as a fitness professional. So seeing her behave in a way that was opposite of how people knew her was off-putting. And I could see how people would have been reacted negatively to those posts. She reacted on me like I'd shot her kid. I have gone at people much harder than that and did not get the hate that came back at me from this woman. She stated that she never claimed to be a fitness expert, and it got to the point where I could no longer support her business. And I pulled Fat Slow Triathlete, and at that time we didn't have this show. The show we had at the time was Back of Pack Endurance. I pulled us out of those groups. I've tried to state to others locally the same way, that if you're a coach or even if you're a known race participant, you should at the very least be aware of the influence you have on others. You may not put yourself out there as an expert, but in a way you have by posting and by talking and things like that. So you should be aware of it. And I am in no way an expert on nutrition or fitness, but I know I have read and I am read and I've listened to every week. So if I slip up, which I do from time to time, and eat something I shouldn't, I'm honest about it, but I'm not going to put it out there like this is okay to do. When, McDonald's comes up with some ridiculous concoction, some monster donut, whatever they come out with, and then you put it out there like, ooh, I got to go try that. I do think it sends the wrong impression. And I try not to do that, even if I might try it, to be honest. I'm not going to put it out there like it's an okay thing to do. I just think that as perceived experts or as perceived, people in the field, that we need to be a little bit more cognizant of how we act. So my original thought for the show this week was actually a good way to end it, I think. We were talking, the aforementioned weight loss challenge over with Fat Man Chronicles, and he had posted something, and we had done a show, Rob and me and him, on over at Fat Man Chronicles. You'll check that out, and asked for input, and inevitably, somebody's going to chime in saying that we came across as judgy, and this is the issue I have with that, is that, one, I don't think we were judging, because we made special effort to say on a number of times that this is our truth and how we feel about things, and that we don't begrudge anybody to do what they feel is right for them. But even though we did that, the comment was still stated that we came across judgy. And so I pondered on whether to respond to it or not, but, in my fashion, I have to sometimes. And what I tried to get across is that because I have a different opinion than you, doesn't mean I'm judging you. And, I'm just telling you how I feel about things, and how what's worked for me may not work for you. So just because I say something, or Pete says something, or Rob says something, or anybody says something that you may not agree with, or goes against how you do things, doesn't mean that you're being judged. And I think what happens is people say, like, I'm going to make something up, say, I like to eat cabbage on Sunday nights. And someone attacks that, or someone comes out, doesn't attack it even, and someone goes, they'll say, well, I read somewhere that eating cabbage on Sunday nights is bad for you. And then the automatic response is, well, don't judge me because I want to eat cabbage on Sunday nights. You're not being judged because I disagree with you. I am just telling you what I think. Or Pete's just telling you what he thinks. Or Rob's just telling you what he thinks. Rob and I disagree on a lot of things. And if you look back on some of the shows, we don't always agree. I know I don't always agree with Pete. They don't always agree with me, but we discuss it, and we try to put it out there as here's two sides to look at it. So if I tell you that, yeah, I believe in set point, and you don't believe in set point, well, okay, that's fine. Or, as I've said many times, calorie in, calorie out is not right. And I can give you all the science to back up why I don't feel this is right. But if you want to, subscribe to that belief, and you believe that it does work, and, that the laws of thermodynamics, applies to a human body just as much as it applies to a machine, have at it. I don't care. But I'm not going to judge you because you feel that way, So, and I know the first two segments of the show might have come across that way. I know that, that some people are going to feel that way, but I'm not judging you. And I don't feel like I should have to, to be very blunt, I don't feel like I should have to explain that every time. That being said, that's how I'm going to end the show. And so if you want to, subscribe to the show, go to fatslowtriathleteshow.podbean.com. You can subscribe there. You can subscribe through iTunes. You can become a patron over at podbean.com. You can find us on the interwebs at teamE4E, basically everywhere, Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, and Facebook. And let us know how you think, and give us some ideas for future shows, and we are always willing to listen. So until next time, swim calm, bike strong, run steady.
Thanks for listening to the Endurance for Everyone podcast. If you have comments or questions for the show, send an email to teamE4E at enduranceforeveryone.com. And remember, swim calm, bike strong, and run steady.